All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants.
Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're live. Thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, I cannot stress this enough, please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section once the stream ends. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get the stream started. Let's get the show going, right? And my man Saul, you threw me off a little bit because his super chat is funny. I get what he's doing, but it looks like you're directing this at me, Saul. He gave me there's a trophy, there's the crown with the finger pointing up that says loser, that looks like it's pointing directly at me. Thank you, Saul, for calling me a loser. I know you didn't mean it the way it came off in the super chat, but that's definitely how it looks, and it threw me off. But let's get this show started, man. Shout out to my man Saul for always showing love to the channel. I want to get into this story, right? Ever since the mass deportation efforts began, Democrats have been very thirsty and desperate to find stories that are essentially sob stories of mothers and or fathers getting ripped away from their children, and the children are crying in the background, and oh my God, separation of families and yada 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 yada, right? And they haven't been really successful at all in finding these stories due to the fact that, you know, as Tom Homan stated, they're going after the worst of the worst, right? Meaning, you know, Tren de Aragua gang members, MS-13 gang members, cartel members. These are all folks that have been organizations that have been designated as terrorist organizations. And with that being said, obviously, no one has sympathy on gang members, let alone terrorist organizations. And as I articulate over and over and over and over again, you know, if I commit a crime, if I'm part of a gang, I get arrested, I go to jail. As an American citizen, nobody cares what happens to my son and how his life is going to turn out, right? Shouldn't have been participating in gang activity, shouldn't have committed a crime. The same thing goes for, you know, illegal immigrants, you know, that are in that same boat. You wouldn't care if what happens to my son. So, I mean, I don't know. It just is what it is, right? You've made your own decisions. You made your bed. Now you have to lay in it. But now here we go with another one of these stories. And this is a story that Democrats are desperately trying to spin and make into a big deal. But like all other stories of this nature, they just essentially fall flat on their face, and people just kind of dismiss them, because ultimately at the end of the day, the main question is this individual illegal or not? And then what happens is that the Democrat that you're asking that to will bite down and grit their teeth and go, they're undocumented. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Got it. Illegal. Got it. Right. And that's why these stories fall flat on their face. So now let's get into it. Right. Trump administration admits it wrongly deported man to El Salvador. What's going on here with this story? Essentially, in a nutshell, you have an MS-13 gang member who was able to sweet talk his way into staying into the country. That's essentially what happened here. He was deported on the grounds of being an MS-13 gang member, to which he himself never denied when he had the opportunity in court to deny it years ago, back in 2019. He didn't deny it or fight against that claim, right? So you have this MS-13 gang member here who was deported on the grounds of being an MS-13 gang member, but technically he had a protection from removal order on him. But we're going to unpack all of this, right? So that we get to the bottom of what happened, what's going on, and the truth behind all of this, and the truth behind why, yes, he indeed needed to be deported, outside of the just plain and simple obvious fact that he's an illegal immigrant. So, I mean, outside of that, I don't even understand what we're talking about. But these things do need to be unpacked, right? So let's get into this here. I want to highlight, was it here in the article? No. This is what I want to do. What I want to do first is that I want to play this video of Caroline Levitt just responding to the entire argument and the confusion, you can say, behind this man being deported despite having a protection order on him, right? And this is still given the fact that he's an MS-13 gang member and illegal. Let's get into what she had to say. So I'm going to pull this article down so I can pull the video up. So give me just a second while I do that. And while I'm doing that, please make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are indeed new to the channel.
The error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore. And it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping. And every single person in this room should be grateful for that, considering especially MS-13 is very prevalent and prominent here in the District of Columbia, in Maryland, and in Virginia. And the president, the attorney general, everyone who has been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
Now, I want to move over to this article next, right? So let me pull this up for you right now, because once again, at the end of the day, this guy was an MS-13 gang member. It's always been understood that he is an MS-13 gang member, henceforth why he was deported. And this is something that he himself has never denied, nor does his wife or his attorney directly deny. They never directly state that he is not an MS-13 gang member. They never do. They only state that he is not a criminal. Being highly technical, he's not a criminal, but they won't state that he is not an MS-13 gang member and has never been an MS-13 gang member. They won't do it. What you will see is narration behind, or I should say narration of the story, right, by these DNC news outlets like CBS, where they themselves will make the assumption that he's not an MS-13 gang member. They themselves, right, the narrators of this story will speak on behalf of the wife and say that he's not an MS-13 gang member, right? But the actual people directly involved concerning the man himself, the wife, and the attorney never directly make that statement, ever. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're not going to directly make that statement, that tells me you are exactly who the Trump administration says that you are, because you won't deny it. I'm going to leave the link to this particular article in the description in the live chat right now. But I will also make sure to leave all links that I show for today's video in the description box below after the stream is over, because I want you guys to go over this stuff for yourself and see that I'm not making any of this up. There is a video that goes along with this article here. I'm not going to play the video because if I remember correctly, it said something funny about the CBS News Plus. I'm assuming that it's connected to a subscription, you know, that you have to watch this, even though this is a snippet of it here. You know, I don't want to have any issues on YouTube. I just want to really highlight the point that I was making in terms of the refusal to deny the fact that he's an MS-13 gang member, right? But if you don't believe me, once again, I just left the article link in the description box below and in the live chat. So please read this article for yourself and watch the video that's pinned at the top of the article for yourself. And they never deny this. But the CBS news outlet will state this. Jennifer strongly refuted the White House's accusations, saying she would know if her husband was a gang member. Court documents indict Abrego Garcia, has traffic violations, but no criminal charges or convictions in the U.S. Once again, that's what CBS stated. And I want you to see the game that they play. Jennifer strongly refuted the White House's accusations, saying she would know if her husband was a gang member. And then they directly go into direct quotes from the interview. Do you think she's going to say that? No. What she says is, he's not a criminal. Jennifer said, my husband is an amazing person, an amazing father. But what you don't see in quotations is her husband, the father of her child, is not an MS-13 gang member. That's what the author of this article stated. That's what the narrators overall of the story keep stating. They themselves never directly refute that. They never do. They never do. And once again, as far as I'm concerned, if you're not going to directly refute it, then you are who they say you are, because you're choosing not to defend yourself in that regards. And this is all also despite the fact that, you know, realistically speaking, it's irrelevant, because ultimately you're still an illegal immigrant, right? So it shouldn't even really take all this at the end of the day. What I want to do right now is that I want to get into this next video here from one of my favorite people, Stephen Miller. Well, Stephen Miller is one of my favorite people out of this administration. And I want to play a little bit of what he had to say also. So let me drag this down so I can pull the video up. Give me a moment while I do that. And also, as usual, just do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And let's get into this video right here.
Jesse, you and I have never received in our lives as much positive press as this MS-13 gang member has received. I'm
going to start it from the beginning. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
Jesse, you and I have never received in our lives as much positive press as this MS-13 gang member has received. We couldn't get headlines like that if our lives depended on it. Yeah. So let's just go over the facts here. He is an illegal alien. Fact one, what do you do with illegal aliens? You deport them. Fact two, he's an MS-13. What do you do with illegal aliens who are also in a transnational terrorist organization? You deport them more quickly. Oh, and on top of that, he's implicated in human trafficking. Deport, deport, deport. This is who they're going to bat for. What are we supposed to do? Buy the guy a house, get him some free health care, maybe let him run for Congress? I mean,
that's exactly what they would want. Buy this guy a house, get him some free health care, and let him run for Congress. I mean, that's pretty much what they do in cities like Chicago. That's what Brandon Johnson, the operation he's running over there. I want to hear that again.
And then human trafficking. Deport, deport, deport. This is who they're going to bat for. What are we supposed to do? Buy the guy a house, get him some free health care, maybe let him run for Congress? You're supposed to do all of those things. I mean, this is who this is the Democrat Party. This is who they stand for. This is who Cory Booker stands for in 2025. They stand for illegal alien predators that are in transnational cartels. That's the Democrat Party of today. We will win this fight all day, every day.
Now, I want to take a moment to go through the series of tweets right now, right? And I'm going to make sure to leave this link in the live chat right now, but it will also be left in the description box and pinned in the comment section after the stream is over. This is very important here. And this is something that everybody needs to read for themselves. And in my opinion, you all need to share with others if you're not going to share this video, right? And you can at least share these links with people, and hopefully they'll go through the information themselves. Let me pull this up for you and show you this. Okay. So what we have here is essentially all of the proof and evidence that we need, which highlights why this man obviously needed to be deported and should have been deported outside of the obvious fact that he was just an illegal immigrant. This comes from Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain is a senior counsel at the Article 3 Project and the IAP, right? I'm going to leave this link in the live chat right now if I didn't already. I feel like I didn't leave it yet, so I'll do that right now. Let me drop it in the live chat for you guys. Boom. Okay. Now let's get into it. Let's get into the actual facts. Literal, documented facts, right? The thread reads as such as it starts off. Let's tell the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father, likely a member of MS-13, who was removed to El Salvador, and who the Atlantic and apparently the entire political left are demanding be returned to the United States. Let's get into this. This is just very interesting when you actually go through the facts. And I want you to notice too, every statement that this man makes is highlighted with official documentation to back up what he's saying as being fact. Okay. That's why this particular thread, this X thread or tweet thread, however you'd say it, is so important. First, his detention. He was detained in March 2019 and charged with removability. Abrego Garcia is a native and citizen of El Salvador. He crossed the border illegally in 2012 and was thus removable, totally independently of whether he was an MS-13 gang member, right? So once again, what's just being established here is that off top in 2012, you crossed the border illegally, regardless of if you were an MS-13 gang member or not, you're removable. You should have been deported. The finding that he was a member of MS-13 only came up because he asked for bond. The immigration judge reviewed the evidence and found that it showed he is a verified MS-13 gang member, and therefore that Abrego Garcia did not demonstrate that his release from custody would not pose a danger to others. Okay, so when he got caught in 2019 and asked for bond, that's what triggered an investigation into him, to which it was determined back in 2019 that he was indeed an MS-13 gang member, right? Let's carry on. The immigration judge also found that Abrego Garcia was a flight risk, noting his history of failing to appear for proceedings pertaining to his traffic violations. Thus, on two independent grounds, the judge denied his bond. Once again, he crossed the border illegally in 2012, got caught in 2019. When he asked for bond, an investigation was done into him, and it was determined he was an MS-13 gang member. Outside of that, they also noticed that when it came to traffic violations and it was time to go to court, This man skipped out on court every single time. What does that mean? It triggers the fact and the reality that if you let this guy go now, he's going to make a run for it. And he's never coming back to his court date. Okay? Let's carry on. And once again, I have to continue to reiterate with every statement that's made, the documented evidence is also pinned to the statement. Abrego Garcia appealed to the Bond of Immigration Appeals, which affirmed the immigration judge's findings on dangerousness and thus dismissed the appeal. Fast forward 6 months with a new tactic. Instead of challenging the finding of removability, Abrego Garcia filed a new claim. I want to read that one more time. Fast forward 6 months with a new tactic. Instead of challenging the finding of removability, Abrego Garcia filed a new claim. What is he saying? He didn't challenge the fact that they found out that he was an MS-13 gang member with credible evidence to back that up. He didn't challenge it. He didn't deny any of it. He just tried a new tactic. He could have argued against it. He could have challenged it, and he chose not to. Speaks volumes. So now what's the new tactic, right? Abrego Garcia filed a new claim for number 1, asylum, number 2, withholding of removal to El Salvador, and 3, protection under Article 3 of the Convention Against Torture. We have to remember the situation Abrego Garcia is in. He is facing imminent removal given the ruling of the first immigration judge. He has 2 brothers who have green cards. His fiance is a citizen, and he has just given birth to his child. He clearly wants to stay. And so, at this hearing, applying for asylum, he testifies that he fears returning to El Salvador because the 18th Street gang was targeting him and threatening him with death because of his family's pupusa business. He argued that the gang was extorting his mother, Cecilia, that they threatened to kill him. Of course, they never reported to the police. Still, he fears for his life 8 years later, he testified, even though the family had closed down the pupusa business. Despite the convenience of Abrego Garcia's claim now being made 8 years after the fact, while facing imminent removal, once again, and I'm going to keep pausing to bring it all out, to bring it all back in. He's applying for asylum in 2019 after being caught and having a deportation removal order on him. You've been here since 2012. That's what, six years, something like that. You've had 6 years to apply for asylum. If this was true, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you apply for asylum with your life being in danger back in 2012? Why did you wait all the way up until now in 2019, once you finally got caught and it was determined that you're an MS-13 gang member and that you skip out on court anytime you have a court date? Those 2 factors alone made it that you were removable. You have to be deported. Now all of a sudden you're seeking asylum. Now all of a sudden your life is in danger because of your mom's pupusa business that's been closed down for however long it's been closed down. You see how fake and fraudulent this all is? It's so obvious. It's all so obviously fake and fraudulent. But I digress. Let's carry on. Despite the convenience of Abrego Garcia's claim, now being made 8 years after the fact, while facing imminent removal, and despite the lack of corroborating evidence beyond affidavits from his family, The new immigration judge found Abrego Garcia's account credible. And it was 8 years after the fact, not 6 years after the fact, right? But this immigration judge, for whatever the reason being, found his story credible, essentially without any real evidence. They said it was okay. He said it was okay, right? But remind you, he had 8 years to do this and never did it until it was found out that he was an MS-13 gang member. But get this, even after this finding, the new immigration judge could not grant Abrego Garcia's asylum claim. That was obviously time barred. Therefore, Abrego Garcia does not have legal status in the United States. However, Abrego Garcia was granted a withholding of removal to El Salvador. That's not a legal right to stay in the United States, only a legal right to not be removed to one specific country. Any third country would be sufficient. He never had legal grounds to stay here. He was always deportable. They just couldn't technically deport him to El Salvador, but he was always deportable. So that's the issue. The United States did indeed make an administrative error. They removed him to El Salvador when there was a withholding of removal to El Salvador. And that's the administrative error. But that begs the question, could the administration terminate his withholding of removal? So once again, the administrative error being, I guess they should have sent him anywhere else but El Salvador. I don't know, the Sudan. I remember they were talking about that on Fox News. They could have sent them to the Sudan or maybe anywhere else in, anywhere else in Latin America, but not El Salvador. Technically, they weren't supposed to send him there, but he was still deportable. He had no legal right or legal standing to remain in the United States. And that's the facts that has to be remembered here. The answer to that question is almost certainly yes. Let me start off with this again, since I started talking, kind of threw off that tweet. So we'll start here. So that's the issue. The United States did indeed make an administrative error. They removed him to El Salvador when there was a withholding of removal to El Salvador. But that begs the question, could the administration terminate this withholding or removal? The answer to that question is almost certainly yes. If there is a fundamental change in circumstances, I quote, if there is a fundamental change in circumstances, that means Abrego Garcia's life or freedom would no longer be threatened in El Salvador. His withholding of removal could be terminated. Remember that Abrego Garcia's withholding of removal in 2019 was based on his fears that the 18th Street Gang would persecute him if he returned to El Salvador. Well, thankfully, Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, has crushed the 18th Street Gang. It is now safe for Abrego Garcia to return, because that gang that he was running from, that gang that he was claiming asylum to escape from, are not existent in El Salvador anymore. Bukele, the president, destroyed them. So guess what? You can go home now. And that's where he is. He's at home. Again, Abrego Garcia has no legal status in the United States. He just had a temporary right to not be removed to El Salvador. He should have had an interview on this subject and not deported until it was granted. Nonetheless, the end result would have been the same. A number of left-wing commentators have been getting basic things wrong here. Tim ODC calls Abrego Garcia a legal resident. Wrong. Abrego Garcia's asylum claim was denied. He was a removable alien. Podcaster John Faves and Grok apparently believe there is no evidence that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13. Wrong. Both the original immigration judge and Board of Immigration Appeals found there was sufficient evidence of such to render him a danger to the public. This is from David J. Beer. Is incredibly misleading. This from David J. Beer is incredibly misleading. Abrego Garcia had a legal right not to be deported to El Salvador out of a 2019 era fear that he would be persecuted by the 18th Street Gang. Bukele, as discussed, crushed that gang. And as we round this thing out, one final point. Let's be real about this. Abrego Garcia and his family were likely lying about the threats to his safety. He only came up with this story about his mom's pupusa after he had been denied bail. This guy crossed the border illegally in 2012 by his own admission. He never gained legal status. He was finally detained in 2019 and found removable. He came up with a sob story to delay his deportation. Even if he were telling the truth, he would have had his withholding of removal removed as early as 2022 once Bukele had crushed the 18th Street Gang. He has no right to be in this country. He crossed the border illegally, and he has been residing in the country illegally for almost 12 years, totally independent of whether or not he is a member of MS-13. He needed to go home. So once again, whether or not he was a member of MS-13 at this point is irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, he was still deemed removable, just not technically removable to El Salvador at the time, because the 18th Street Gang was running rampant, but they don't exist anymore. So now you can be deported back to your homeland where you came from. And remember, as we close this thing out, this is all based on a story that if it were true, why didn't you talk about this in 2012? Why didn't you apply for asylum when you first got here back then in 2012? Why did you wait to come up with this sob story in 2019, right? 8 years later. Why'd you take so long? Because it's not true. You're lying. You're making stuff up. It's only now that once you found yourself in this position in 2019 that he was going to be deported, all of a sudden he's seeking asylum. All of a sudden he's running from the 18th Street Gang. All of a sudden it's because of his mom's pupusa business that was already closed down, right? This is all fake. It's all fraudulent. It's all nonsense, right? This guy deserved to be deported and was supposed to be deported. And, you know, here we are. Here we are with the facts of the matter and the reality that he should have never been here to begin with. And the fact that he was deported is essentially, as the saying goes with the Trump administration, promises made, promises kept. Okay, this is promises made, promises kept. Case closed. There isn't anything to talk about here, nothing to discuss, you know? And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today, man. Please smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And share this video on your social media platforms. If you're watching me on X, please retweet this, repost this, re-X this if you're watching on X. And shout out to those of you who are watching on Rumble. Please do the same. Hit the like button on Rumble and follow me on Rumble if you haven't done that. So now what I want to do next is get into the support. I don't exist without you guys' support. Thank you, my man Saul, for calling me a loser. You know, as in he gave me the trophy, he gave me the crown, and pointed right up at me and said, "Loser." And for those of you who don't know my man Saul, don't go in on him or anything like that. That's my guy. Okay, that's my guy. He didn't mean it how it showed up. He didn't mean it like that. But that is hilarious. That is hilarious how that looks. I'm a big loser. Shout out to College of Natural Health Science BDA, who said, turns out Dem's chains were for illegals. yeah, those chains were for illegals, man. They were for them. My man, College of Natural Health Science BDA. I'm not sure if you're a man or a woman. I think we I think you told me once before already, but I forgot. But College of Natural Health Science BDA spun the block and said, you better thank a union member for ICE agents. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Saul spun the block again. He said, TD, it was directed towards Father of the Year. Gotcha. I know. Man, it was directed towards the Father of the Year. I know. But that is hilarious that like it looks like it's directed at me. I see you, Saul, sneak dissing me, man. I see you with the sneak dissing. You know, very clever though. Very clever though. And I got to do this one time for College of Natural Health Science BDA. You better thank a union member for ICE agents. Where is it at? Got to do it one time.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
Her voice is like nails on a just chalkboard. Like, dude, I can feel the blood starting to come out of my ears right now. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later, man. I gotta head out of here. But thank you guys for joining me. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms, and also don't forget to follow me on Telegram. Link to my Telegram in the description box below, and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.